it's Michele from Scrap Secrets and welcome to another crafty video. So in today's video we're going to be using one of the new Dienamics that I got the other day from MFT called Perfext Poinsettias, and we are going to be using most of the pieces that come with this die set, the Dienamics. I cut out one of the large petals from a darker red cardstock, and then I cut out two of the smaller ones from a lighter red cardstock. I just put washi tape on these two leaves to put them together so that I could run them through at the same time and they wouldn't overlap on each other or move. And I used a darker green cardstock and cut these out twice, each of them. And then I used one of the centerpieces. You get two different ones. I used the smaller centerpiece and cut that out of white cardstock. We're going to use some Copic markers and do some coloring and giving it some texture and depth. And that's it. That's everything that we cut out. I am going to be using two colors of distress ink. We're going to be using Pine Needles and Barn Door. I have the regular distress ink, not the distress oxide. We cut down a piece of a card base that was out of an 8.5 by 11 card. And it measures 5.5 by 8.5, so then scored at 4 1/4. So we're going to have a side folding card, but actually we're going to use it as a top folding card. Or, I'm sorry, no, we were going to be using it on the side. I was going back and forth trying to figure out if I liked it better, landscape or portrait, but I think I like it this way, this side folding. And then I cut a piece of green cardstock down to 1/8 of an inch smaller than the card base. And then this paper comes from a pack that I got at Michael's. It's a Recollections cardstock. This one, it's 180 sheets. I got this again a couple of years ago. These are the really thin papers, so I just like them for layering. They're not good to use on their own, so I like when you can layer them up because it doesn't give too much bulk to your cards, but they do have some pretty designs and they are pretty inexpensive. I think I got that on clearance after the season. So we're going to start working on the card right now, and we are going to, I'm not sure if we're going to use all 4 leaves, but we are going to work on inking them up. Oh, I'm sorry, we also are going to be using the Holly Jolly Holidays stamp from the MFT stamp set gift tag greetings. So these are smaller greetings, and there's just a little spot at the bottom for a sentiment, and we are going to most likely be using Memento Tuxedo Black ink to stamp that sentiment. So I'm just going to put that over to the side so I don't lose it. Okay, so let's get started on the leaves. Now, the one thing that you can do, if you're going to do Copic markers on this, you want to do them first before you use any distress ink. And I think that's what I want to do. I think I'm going to take a Copic marker and I'm going to just pick one YG45, which is cobalt green. And I just picked it out of my Copic marker stash. There was no rhyme or reason for it. It was just one of the first ones that I got. And I just kind of want to put the leaf detail in there. Now, we'll go over some of this with the distress ink, and I don't know how this is going to come out. I've never done this before. I've never used Copic markers and then put distress ink over top of it. So we're kind of going to see how it looks. So this is, it fades back and it dries pretty light. So we're just going to do that with all of them. And just see how, actually we'll do it with one set and we'll see how it looks because we may, I don't know how this is going to look. Like I said, I like trying different techniques, mixing mediums to see how they look together. So this should be interesting. So I'm just going to put a little bit of distress ink on here. Let's see. This is a scrap piece of cardstock. I'm going to show you, again, this is coming up in a future video. This is one of the layering stamps from Sunny Studio Stamps. And I love the way that it turned out. I actually got a decent one. This one was just kind of practice. And I didn't love the way the practice one came out, but I do love the way the real one came out. So we're just going to add a little bit. It doesn't add too much. You can still kind of see the lines. And I'm just kind of going around the bottom parts. This is the part that's going to be sticking out from the poinsettia. So you're going to have the lightest part up here and it's going to be darker down here because there's going to be a shadow from the petals. So I kind of like the way that turned out. So we are going to continue to do this and we're just going to ink a little bit of it up. We'll see how this works out. And we may need some more ink depending on the way the leaves lay once we're done with that. So we'll just go back real quick and add the Copic markers to this. And then we're kind of going to do the same thing. I don't think we're going to use Copic markers. We may, if I decide to. I don't know. Again, this was just something that I decided at spur of the moment to. I was only going to use Copic markers on the middle piece of the poinsettia, but I just decided let's go ahead and try it and see how this looks. So I'm sure that other people have done Copic and distress markers before. I know that you can't do it the opposite way. I believe that the inks will ruin your Copics if you try to use Copic over top of the distress ink, but if you do it this way, it doesn't hurt anything because you're not going to hurt the sponge with Copic markers. Okay, do that, and it kind of gives it, that didn't blend very well. You can take a second color of distress ink and go over these. One of the reasons that I use the green cardstock is that way we didn't have to do too much blending because there's already green on the cardstock, and that kind of eliminates one of the steps. And it just gives them some nice texture and dimension on there. So we're going to put this off to the side. And again, that was distress ink in pine needles, and then the Copic marker is YG45 cobalt green. So put that to the side. And then you can see there is texture in here, so possibly we will do that. Let's see. Let's use R17, which is lipstick orange, for the top one, and then we'll use strong red 47 for the bottom. So let's start with the bottom ones. I don't know how much of this you're going to be able to see, but we'll just kind of go over the layers really, really quickly. This is a nice way to add texture and dimension to your die cuts. Adding shading always helps give it that texture. So I did a video a while back. I actually had another channel. I got locked out of it, and I did, I think there was like 10 different ways to add depth and dimension to your die cuts. I made you another video on that, the tips and tricks for adding dimension. Because sometimes if you just use them, I mean, they're great used on their own, but sometimes just adding that little bit of extra really brings the die cut to life. If you've ever seen anybody do distress ink on their die cuts, you'll notice it gives it a whole new dimensional look. It just gives it a little bit more realistic feel to it, and it just adds to the look of the card. You know, it looks a little bit more professional and more finished and polished. So I'm not really following the lines as well because at this angle it's a little hard to see some of them, and some of the lines I'm doing thicker and some of them I'm doing thinner, but in real life that's the way things are. They're not perfect. Not everything lines up. Not everything looks perfect. So, oops, I didn't do the second one. And there's a lot of lines to do on here. So we're just going to do these fairly quickly, and hopefully I'm not boring you guys too much with the mundane task of just going back and using Copic markers for dimension. So I had to look up how to put this together, and I did look up what a poinsettia actually looks like. I don't have them because I have cats, and they are poisonous to cats, so I don't have them in the house. I do have fake ones that I put on the banister, those like garlands, but I always forget what they look like. So I looked them up, and there's like yellow in the middle, so that's why we're going to do some yellow in the Copic marker. The one that I saw, the MFT one, they did like a greenish middle, but I looked it up and I saw the yellow. So this is Y18 lightning, it's lightning yellow. So we're going to do a little bit of that in the middle. And I'm trying to stay away from the Copic markers, I mean the distress ink, because I don't want to actually get that on the marker. And then this one is Y13. We're just going to go over the edges of it. And I think this Y13 is a little bit more of the actual color of the poinsettia center. The Y18 is a little bit more yellow. So we'll go over this a little bit. But it gives it a good distinction between the like little leaf outsides of this and the center. And then Y15, just go over a little bit and just like give it a little bit of shading. I mean, this is so tiny, it probably isn't even doing anything. You're probably not even going to really notice it. But again, it's just for me. There we go. There's the middle piece right there. You can go around the sides too, because you might see the sides. So if you're worried about that, you can color the front and the back. It does kind of soak through, so I don't think you really need to do that. And then quickly, we're going to put these away, and then we are going to do some of the barn door. Now, we are going to be using the same red for both of these, because I didn't grab anything but this barn door. But this one doesn't really look like it's doing much to the bottom red. We'll see once I pull it away. This might be about the same color as the cardstock. It looks like, I mean, it's just adding a little teeny tiny bit to it. But again, you're not going to see much of this bottom one. You're going to see more of the top, because this is kind of going to get, but again, I just wanted to add a little bit of texture, a little bit of dimension to it. Trying to be as careful as possible to not cross-contaminate the ink pads. You can actually do it on this side, because it may pick up some of the green that was on that paper underneath. I'm just kind of going to give it just a little bit of dimension. It kind of looks like it has two colors. If you look, this one versus this one, obviously this one was the one we inked up already. So I tried to keep this video fast, and then look what happens. Tried to keep it under like 15 minutes, and it's already 12.5 minutes. So hopefully the assembling of the card shouldn't take too long. Okay, so try to wipe my hands off to try to not get anything contaminated on there. So we are going to go back to the card base, and we are going to put the first layer. I'm trying to decide if I think I want to ink it up on the edges. We're just going to do a little bit of red on the edges. See, it's really flimsy, so see how that got a little bit more red on the sides than I probably would have wanted it to, but that's okay. So we're just going to go around the edges. This is something you can do when you have single-sided cardstock to kind of give it a finished look. Instead of seeing the white around the edges, this just gives it a little bit of a finishing touch. And things like this do happen, that's fine. So we'll do that before we glue it down. Just did the one side. And yes, this ATG that's in there is the acid-free one. I can't find my other one. I don't know what happened to it. I brought it to a craft fair, and for some reason, I can't find it after that. So, I don't know what happened. Oops. Okay, so we're going to put this piece down on here. We're going to glue that down. Glue this down to the card base. And again, I kind of just eyeball it. I kind of on 3 sides just to make sure that it looks even. And then it should be even on all sides. I'm just going to lay this out and just start putting the poinsettia down. This one is lighter, so I'll put this one down first. And then this one just kind of goes in the middle like that. So it'll be 3 layers, and then this little piece in the middle. I'm just trying to figure out if I want to do one big leaf and then 2 small ones on the side. Does that look? I think that looks kind of cool. Like this. And then, so let's put this off to the side, and let's get the Misty out. We are going to stamp the sentiment, and then we're going to glue everything down, and then we'll be done. So we're going to hold this in place. I have a bunch of magnets. You definitely don't need this many magnets. This is just left over from other projects. I'm just making sure that there's no green on here because it is stained green. Okay, so we're just going to put it in the bottom right hand corner. Just lined it up, and we'll put something up here. And we're just going to ink it up with Memento Tuxedo Black ink, which is a crisp black ink. And since we're not using Copic markers to color anything in, we can use the Memento. I find that Memento doesn't do a good job with Copic markers when you color, but it does do an amazing job stamping. I'm going to ink this up one more time because I think the L's, this pad probably is a little bit dry. It's a little bit older. Let's see. There we go. Did a really, really nice job of stamping that out. And then, oops, take the magnet off. And then we can start gluing the pieces down. So the first thing that I want to do is, again, just position it real quickly. The leaf up here, just so that I can glue the leaves down in place without, and then glue. Okay, we're going to take the Zig 2A glue pen and use that. If you guys don't have a Zig 2A glue pen, you can definitely use other wet glue. You can use ATG on this. That would work. I'm just going to kind of slip this under there. Just going to kind of put this to the side. That should stay out. And then let's put the floral in place. I'm just going to right now glue the middles down because I don't know. I kind of want the leaves to bend up a little bit, or the petals to bend up. So if you just put the center piece down, glued in like that, and then the last piece in. I think doing it with 3 makes it look nice and full. And then you can even push these up a little bit. Again, just glue the middle down here. And there you go. There is my holiday card all done. All I have to do is write a sentiment or stamp a sentiment on the inside, and write my personal message, and that's the card for the day. So thank you guys so much for watching. It was a little bit longer than I thought it would be, but that is how you put the Perfect Poinsettia die together from MFT, or that's at least one of the versions on how to do it. So thank you guys so much for watching this crafty video. If you have any comments or questions, please feel free to leave them below, and I'll get back to you. I will see you again real soon for another crafty video. Bye!